So my wife and I were driving, and as we normally do, we have these conversations. And this conversation is the future potential price of the C8 Z06, okay? And this is actually inspired by Rich Too Bad. Rich Too Bad put up a video of his thoughts and opinions on Z06 price plummeting. And then there was another video that I saw, and I don't remember exactly who, but it was about how the 458, the Ferrari 458, now 15 years later, is on the secondary market for more than MSRP. Granted, we've got inflation, we've got tariffs, we've got supply chain issues, we got COVID, all that had an impact, but we're now getting to future predictions and history to determine where do we go from here. I said that the 458 Ferrari is a glimpse into the future to tell us exactly what we should expect for C8 Z06. Why? Obviously, the power plant, flat plane crank V8, done. The 488 is in essence the ZR1. So we have these case studies that we can then use to try to create some sort of trackable graph or chart here of what to expect. We also have our own history of Corvettes. And I say that, and I have to look at the numbers, but I think that a C5 Z06 was the beginning of really like wanting a Z06. The C6 Z06, LS7, hands down. Get those heads done.
That's always been your dream car, or was always your dream car until your current
Yeah, one. You know, it has, right? And I don't think I'm ever gonna get one, but Michelle wants another 5th gen. And I said, well, we've already had a 6th gen ZL1. We've already had a 5th gen
SS1LE.
SS1LE.
Now we need a ZL1 1LE.
I said, no. I said, we'll get a 5th gen Z28. I'll get the LS7, you get your 5th gen, and everybody's happy.
Yes.
Get those heads done. But the C6 LS7, the C7, granted, the C7 wins because of the supercharger, and that was really cool. Granted, the ZL1 that we had, the supercharger whined louder, and I appreciated that. And we had a 6-speed instead of the 7-speed, but there's that. However, the C7 Z06, or any Corvette for that matter, had a lot of upgrades where it didn't feel like you were driving a Pontiac or a Chevy Malibu. It felt like you were actually driving something special from an interior perspective, tech perspective, infotainment, a lot of features, you name it. Well, here we are at the C8 Z06. And, you know, it's a talking point. Everybody wants it to crash. Everybody wants it to collapse. Well, not everybody, but everybody who doesn't have one or is, you know, hates on them or just creates content because they know negativity will pull in more views. Or
they want the price to crash so that they can finally afford one.
Perhaps, maybe. Which, again, we can look back and see, how did C5 prices do? How did C6 prices do? How did C7 prices do? And it may lend to some idea of how C8 Z06 prices will do. Also based on production quantity. However, again, we're going to use Ferrari as our benchmark here, our barometer. And if the C8 Z06 follows in the footsteps of the 458, then eventually we should see the C8 Z06 prices go up on the secondary market. Considering the 488 and the ZR1. Now, if the C9 brings back a flat plane crank V8, then I could see C8 Z06 prices holding steady or maybe even dropping. if the C9 does not bring back a flat plane crank V8, well, anybody with a C8 Z06 it's one of a kind. It's one of a kind. It's never happened before. It may never ever happen again.
And that will drive the prices up as opposed to drop them.
Now, granted, I think, barring any crazy reliability issues with the ZR1, flat plane crank V8s may be the norm. Think about it. It's almost like every generation of Z06 has made the previous generation. Well, let me put this. Every generation of new Corvette has made the previous generation Z06 the benchmark, sort of. So that now a Stingray, a C8 Stingray, is comparable to a C7 Z06. Now, granted, not necessarily in power, being 650 horsepower, 650 pound-feet of torque, but as far as performance and 0 to 60 in quarter-mile time, I mean, they did it. They did it. And so, in theory, the C9 Stingray should outperform or damn near come close to a C8 Z06. And to do that, they may need the flat plane crank V8 to pull that off, unless they introduce more electrification like an E-Ray. But for the ZR1 to produce as much power as it does, for a ZR1X to produce as much power as it does, plus the electric front axle, they may need to stick with the flat plane crank V8 unless they can get a cross-plane, twin turbo cross-plane to do it. But then they also have to think, okay, well, how do we elevate from there to make the next ZR1, or make the next C06 and make the next ZR1, and so on and so forth. Like, maybe we end up in, ironically, speaking of Ferrari, a territory where the future of Corvette's supercar and hypercar line are 6 cylinders, which is crazy to think, but think about a Ferrari 296. Think about a 296. Think about 296 and its performance and its price, and think about how well it does in comparison to an SF90 as far as people wanting to or even being able to afford to buy them. Will C8 Z06 prices plummet? The short answer is no. The long answer is they could, depending on what happens in the future, and also depending on what you consider plummet. That's my take. Now, my wife, she was bringing up something about Porsche earlier.
Yes, I was saying how Porsche, one of his big gripes, what really grinds his gears about Porsche, is that they took away the analog clock on the dash, and they took away the fun little turn key to start the car, and they made it push start instead. So
you still get the clock. If you get Sport Chrono, she means the analog tach.
That's what I mean. That's what I said. And so I was telling him that means that for you won't buy a newer Porsche because you don't like the changes that they've made. Therefore, you may be personally willing to pay just a hint more for an older Porsche in order to get all of the specs that you want. And I feel like the same thing would apply to a C8 Z06, that even if the prices go down for some reason, there's still going to be people who are willing to pay more for that if it has what they want versus, the C9 or the C7 or the whatever.
So, well, that's a really good point, because we would pay a premium to buy a 5th gen Z28. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. Yep. And if that's what you want, and that's when it was available, then that's what you have to pay, or you just don't get it.
Yep.
And so we would definitely be paying a premium for a 5th gen Z28. No, that's just what it is. What it is. Fortunately, though, I think that the Corvette team, and this isn't GM, this is the Corvette team, because I think they're two totally different entities and need to be treated as such. But I think the Corvette team is not going to disappoint. I think they actually are listening to their target consumer buyer market enthusiast crowd. I think that they are. And I don't think that they're going to do too many stupid things that would literally turn people off of a vehicle that could potentially already be seeing issues with insane markdowns from the factory. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so the last thing you want to do is say, well, we're having a hard time selling these. Let's ruin the platform and have an even harder time selling those. Okay. You know, take a page out of Ford's book with how the Mustang is performing or not so much performing in terms of sales. So I would do everything that I could to make sure that Corvette fans, enthusiasts want to stay that way. Mm-hmm. And not, you know, jump ship and, you know, give another manufacturer an opportunity to get their business. So I have faith. I have faith in the Corvette team as far as the future and the upgrades and the changes. And granted, I think that they are supposed to allow like the European market to design the C9. I'm not sure if that's actually true, and if so, what that could mean. The design is going to have a really big impact on what people are going to spend their money on. And they've definitely tested the limits with the C8 and the mid-engine and everything, and I think it did really well. Hopefully they continue on. The ZR1 having an impact on Z06 prices plummeting. Rich brought up a really good point about the average Joe not necessarily being able to afford a ZR1, the average Joe not necessarily being able to afford a Z06. And I gotta say that the average Joe probably can't really afford a brand new Stingray either, even with nearly 10 grand off. Side note, when we went to buy one, if you had a Costco membership, you got like another 3 grand off. Mm-hmm. And I still think it's out of reach from the standpoint of spending $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 or more on a very impractical 2-seater sports car. Like, yeah. I would see more people spending that kind of money on a truck or an SUV, and still being a struggle and a reach to pull that off, right? Than the toy car.
Do you want me to follow it?
No. Then the toy car. And because it says 225. Let's see what it says when you skip it. We're choosing to ignore the GPS and go the way that we normally go. And instead of getting there at 2:25 p.m., going this way, we'll get there at...
It won't tell me forever because it's going to keep trying to...
Yet.
Hold on, let's see what happens.
I think it's still trying to get her to do a U-turn. It's adamant about getting on I-10.
It really is.
Okay,
it's like
we'll see later.
Continue doing a U-turn.
So I think it's still relatively out of reach, right? So I don't think that, you know, the ZR. It's like, will Ford Mustang GTD prices affect Mustang GT prices? Absolutely not, because they're not in the same category, not even the same realm, not even the same league, not even the same sports, not even the same ballpark. Yes, I like Pulp Fiction. But the ZR1, I think, is in a similar category because, yeah, granted, if you got the money, that's one thing, but even horsepower obsessed, he just sold his Z06 and he's hoping to get a ZR1 in less than a year, maybe 6 months or 12 months, 6 months to a year. And it's like, even if you have the money, even if you know somebody, even if you know a guy and you want to buy a new one, you can't just walk into a dealership and order it. You can't and just get it, you know? Whereas right now, I don't know what the ordering allocation process is for Z06, but you could definitely go to a dealership and buy one new that they had and not pay a premium, pay under MSRP, under sticker. If a dealership has a ZR1 sitting on the lot and they have it offered for sale brand new and it's not, you know, spoken for, then that dealership's going to want to mark up and this, that, and the other. And I don't think that they have any impact on Z06 prices. And I also feel like horsepower obsessed, has had ZR1s in the past. And based on his channel and based on, you know, his choices, he's going to continue on that path. Whereas there are some folks that love a Z06 for Z06, and that's it. And they're not interested in what ZR1s offer, which is most recently forced induction. And then from my perspective, the change in the characteristics and the sounds and just the overall occasion that comes from driving a Z06, I don't want to alter that in any way by introducing two snails to the mix. Granted, horsepower is increased tremendously, but I guess it's kind of like, I don't know, Furious 7. I think it's Furious 7.
Which one?
And he goes, it's not always about being fast.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Maybe it's 6, maybe it's 7, I don't remember. But not going on I-10 is adding 5 minutes to the drive.
So far.
It is what it is. I have zero factual data or evidence or numbers or graphs to, you know, back up our ideas of what could happen to Z06 prices plummeting. This is just my opinion. These are my thoughts, my gut feeling. And if prices drop, you know, it is what it is. I still love mine and I don't care. If prices drop, maybe it changes what we do in the future and buying another one. Because she would love her. I'm sure she would love her own Z06. But she'd be like, hey,
I need ticket money and bail money.
I need y'all to put 3 pedals in that Joker.
Oh, yes.
I need y'all to put 3 pedals in that Joker.
100%.
But, you know, it's an up and down. It's an ebb and flow. It's peaks and valleys. It's highs, there's lows. And, you know, if...
Did you mean to rhyme?
The prices drop and you really wanted one, go get one, you know? And if the prices start going back up again, you really want one, then you might as well go get one because it's just going to go back up.
Yeah.
Because, eventually we will hit a bottom. We will level out. And, you know, it's like we could probably guess what that would be. If we could find the highest mileage Z06 for sale right now, it would be an indication of where that bottom is. Like, it's like if you could find 100,000 mile C8 Z06 right now, and you'd be like, man, it's not that much cheaper than a 20,000 mile Z06 or a 10,000 mile Z06. And it's like, well, there's the market for you. But it's like, do I see a C8 Z06 in any time soon prior to adjustments for inflation coming in under $90,000 without accidents and like being wrecked or rebuilt title? I don't know. I think if I had to say the lowest I could expect to see a C8 Z06 ever would be 80 something, maybe. But I would say like 80 to 90. But, you know, there's something special about that car. And it's you know, not just a Stingray, which there's nothing wrong with a Stingray. I like a Stingray. I like an E-Ray. I like them all. But I think there's something special about it that's going to keep it above 80 forever. But if we can see it above 90, that'd be great. And if we could ever see a future where C8 Z06s on the secondary market cost what are going for what they were new at MSRP or more, well, now we've entered into the Ferrari 458 territory, and that's not a bad place to be.